Today I want to talk about Oklahoma versus Iowa State in the Big 12 championship and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Iowa State versus Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship. And let's start with this. Ralph Russo did what I think is a really important story, which is how do you determine a conference champion across these conference championships if one or both of the teams can't play in the conference title game due to COVID-19 positives and protocol that would limit the number of players they have available to play. The Big 12 is going to something a little bit controversial, which is to say if Oklahoma or Iowa State can't meet the COVID-19 protocol, the next best team, according to the standings, gets to play for the conference championship. In this case, that'd be Texas. So if Iowa State or Oklahoma can't go, they'll be replaced by Texas. What I thought would happen is that Iowa State would just be declared the conference champion because they would have had the head-to-head in the winning percentage. Like, that's just what it is, right? They played more games than Oklahoma. They also won more games than Oklahoma, even as Oklahoma has 2 losses and, Texas has 3. So that's that. This also is interesting because Oklahoma has owned the Big 12 championship game, both before they stopped playing it and since they've begun playing it once again. Because Oklahoma has won the last 12 Big 12 title games, last 4 Big 12 title games and has played in 12 previously. So 2010, 2017, 2018, 2019, all for Oklahoma, okay? The MVP of that game has been an Oklahoma quarterback in each of the last 4 games. Landry Jones, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and yes, Jalen Hurts. Nope, I got that wrong. 3 quarterbacks, 1 wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb was the MVP of the 2019 Big 12 title game. All right, so now that we're back on course. Iowa State is playing for its first conference championship since 1912. It's 108 years without a conference title. This is their first opportunity to win a Big 12 championship and play in a Big 12 championship game. Tremendous year for Matt Campbell. Tremendous year for Breece Hall, who's rushed for all the yards, y'all. Like, he's one of the 4 best running backs in all of college football. I say 4 best because Michael Carter and Javonte Williams in North Carolina are just astonishingly good, and so is Najee Harris. Breece Hall is the catalyst that makes that Iowa State offense go. Mike Rose, if he's not the Nagurski Award winner, ought to be in number 2. I mean, it's between him and Zaven Collins, right? It's just your flavor. Mike Rose has 81 tackles across 9 games. He's been tremendous for Iowa State with 4 interceptions. I don't know of another player other than Zaven Collins who's been playing on the same level of Mike Rose defensively across college football. Tremendous athlete, tremendous player. Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. I know that Alex Grinch came out and said, if it's not Isaiah Thomas, I don't know who it is. I'll tell you who it is. It's Mike Rose. He's been that awesome. Kudos to him. I saw him start as a true freshman at Iowa State. Tremendous growth. I've been very enthusiastic about watching him continue to develop in John Haycock's defense and watching Matt Campbell's program continue to grow. He wins a Big 12 championship. He's a made man. They'll build him a statue. The only job I think he would take outside of the one he has is at Ohio State, and I don't see that one coming open anytime soon with what Ryan Day is doing. Matt Campbell doing a tremendous job. Now, Oklahoma's also been surging since its, loss to Iowa State, 37-30. They held TCU to 14, went into 4 overtimes against Texas, got that W, and have given up 28 points or fewer in every game since, holding Kansas to 9, right? Holding Oklahoma State to 13, right? They've been playing outstanding football when they've got a chance to play football, okay? Held Baylor to 14, but that was 2 weeks ago by the time that they're going to play this game against Iowa State. And Lincoln Riley gone on record to say, we got to play games to get better. And they quite frankly have not played a whole bunch of games, right? Now, for the landscape of the college football playoff, there is a way for Oklahoma or Iowa State to get in. The Big 12 champion is not dead because Florida took an L to LSU in the swamp to catch its second loss, and a bad one, right? Now, the way that this also looks for me is that if Coastal Carolina beats ULL, they ought to get real consideration ahead of the Big 12 champion because they will have beaten Louisiana Lafayette not once but twice, and Louisiana Lafayette beat Iowa State by 17 points in the season opener this year, to say nothing of the joke that I have been making that the Sun Belt is playing for the territorial allotment, also known as the Big 12, because Sun Belt teams went 3-0 against Big 12 teams. Arkansas State beat Kansas State. Blake Anderson goes to Utah State. We watch ULL beat Iowa State, and of course, we watch the Chanticleers hand Kansas their head, and Kansas goes 0-9. It's a big deal, right? So you're rooting for a number of things if you're a fan of Iowa State or Oklahoma getting into the college football playoff. You're rooting for a ULL to beat Coastal Carolina. You're rooting for Tulsa to beat Cincinnati. You're rooting for Alabama to beat Florida. You're rooting for Notre Dame to beat Clemson. And you're rooting for Northwestern to beat Ohio State. And you're rooting for Texas A&M to lose their final game this weekend. It's a lot to root for. It's a lot. On the other, you also got the outside shot of USC jumping everybody if they got to win. So for good measure, you're rooting for Washington to beat USC and leave you with this criteria that is who's the highest ranked team and did they win a championship? Because when you're taking into account who's going to get into the playoff, you take a look at the the college football playoff rankings, and you go down a list. How much of a gap are they going to have to close? Texas A&M is praying that somebody upsets Alabama, being Florida, that somebody upsets Ohio State, being Northwestern, that Notre Dame knocks off Clemson for a second time so they can slide in, right? Cincinnati's hoping for something else different, right? There's a lot that has to go right for the Big 12 champion to get into the college football playoff. That said, Oklahoma's getting to play for its 6th consecutive Big 12 championship. My goodness. Iowa State's getting to play for their first. Oklahoma has rented a room in the college football playoff 4 out of the last 5 years. Okay? This is usually acted as a play-in game for Oklahoma to get into the playoff. There's also a large group of Oklahoma fans who are going, you know what? We don't need to go to the playoff this year. It's fine. It's okay. We can let that one go. We can do without being embarrassed once again on a national spotlight in the Sugar Bowl, because they would be the 4th team and you'd be playing Alabama. And don't nobody want them problems. Like, Oklahoma's already caught the 2 L's. Just put them in the Cotton Bowl if they win the Big 12 championship. Let it go, right? Or Iowa State gets served up. Goodness me, can you imagine Alabama versus Iowa State? Dream season for Iowa State. You ain't good enough to beat Alabama. That's not what it's going to be. And that's the other part of this, which is who's going to give the best game. Right now, I think it's Ohio State to Alabama. Texas A&M had their shot. They got beat 52-17. Like, come on, guys. Like, we know what it's going to be for Texas A&M, and nobody wants to see that rematch, though Clemson Notre Dame could be a three-peat when it's all said and done, so who knows. Also add in here that Ramondre Stevenson and Ronnie Perkins returning to the starting lineup have made Oklahoma look like a totally different team. I was talking to my friend Terry about this, and I'm of the opinion that it's the secondary that let you down against Kansas State, against Iowa State. Quite frankly, hold people to under 37 and go win a football game, right? If you're holding people to under 40, you ought to win with the Lincoln Riley, Spencer Rattler-led offense. Just what it is. I don't care if Ramondre Stevenson is there or not. Do that. And it was the secondary. It wasn't really the pass rush. It's Pat Fields, Delarrin Turner-Yellow, Trey Brown, Jaden Davis, right? You need to figure it out. Everybody's going, where's Bryson Washington? Why can't we see him? Why is Woody Washington not back at corner? And then he was. Why is Buki playing nickel? I think he should be, but I also understand why you might not want him there. Trey Norwood, outstanding addition. He's been the guy that's helped change your defense. You need him playing big-time football against Brock Purdy. You need to be able to trust him to come downhill and fill, along with Deshaun White and David Ugwebu, who's been outstanding, right? Maybe you get Nick Benito back for this. That would be tremendous for them as well. The JUCO kids have been playing well. Josh Ellison and Perrion Winfrey have been outstanding, okay? offensive line gels. You're able to run the ball. Ramondre Stevenson's averaging 5.9 yards per carry, and Rattler seems to be coming into his own. There's a way for Oklahoma to win the Big 12 championship game, but I don't think anybody would be upset if Oklahoma did not put into the playoff. Matter of fact, I think there's a bunch of OU fans that are quietly hoping that that's the case. That said, 6 consecutive is a big deal, man. 6. Goodness me. And Oklahoma continues to run the conference. As for Iowa State, if y'all win that game, you have my whole heart. I will root for you the whole way. That'd be tremendous. It'd be nice to see Iowa State get to play in a New Year's Six Bowl and perhaps against a Texas A&M or whomever they get served up to in the Cotton Bowl, or I should say serves up to them in the Cotton Bowl. All right, that is it for me. Deuces.